I'm going to get started here. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm Lisa Sharapata, the Senior Director of Brand Experience at Aprimo. And since we're running a little behind, I'm going to kind of flip through the beginning part of this and get to the meat of it pretty quickly. Most of this beginning part is stuff we've been talking about the last day, and you've probably heard a lot about experiences anyway. But the reason why I start with this idea of creating great experiences is because of the statistics and information that we know that consumers are looking for these great experiences, that there's just been a huge shift in marketing and the industry as a whole and what consumers expect today. You're competing against the best experience a consumer has had, no matter what industry you are in, right? And so as a marketer or a part of a marketing team or any organization, you need to be focused on these experiences as your outcome, and that's going to make or break you as an organization. And so I just want everyone to kind of think about that for a few minutes here. How does that relate to your business? If customer experience is the new battlefront and 81% of companies are going to be competing mainly on customer experience by 2020, which is in 8 months, less than that, 7 months, 6 months. Yeah, how are you going to do that, right? So, again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but really take that in, because that's the essence of what we need to be doing going forward. So again, these slides will be shared. There's lots of great stats in here and things to consider if you need to make a case to your senior leadership, for example, about why you're doing what you're doing. 1 in 3 customers are willing to walk away from a brand they love after just one bad experience. I mean, these things are real. This is real research and information, and it's sometimes hard to believe, but it's what's happening. So again, I'm just going to keep going here. I'll stop at this slide, though, and I want you to just take a minute to read these questions and think about this. Do you know your customers at what they want at an individual level? Are your brand's customer experiences meaningful? Can customers interact with your brand on their own terms? Meaning, when they come to your website, are they finding what they're looking for? If you have an app, are they finding it? If you're in a bank and you don't have an app, what kind of frustration is that causing? Things like that, because now they're expecting things that they see happening in another brand to be happening with your brand. Even if your competitors aren't doing it, this is where you can get the advantage, right? Because somebody's doing it, and somebody's doing it well, and as soon as somebody has a good experience with that brand, that's their new bar. And then, are you delivering a consistent brand experience every time you interact with your customer? I think that is really starting to be the bigger challenge that companies are facing today, is managing that consistent experience. Again, more stats, but I want to focus on this as well, because understanding what your customers truly want, we've done a lot of research on this and I've dug up a lot of information, but it always breaks down to these 4 things. You might hear different words to describe them, but is it relevant content and information that they're getting at the time that they want it? Is it convenient to find? And is it consistent? Are you saying the same thing across different channels? So if you have an e-commerce team pushing out something, and a digital team, and a social team, and a PR team, are they getting a consistent message across all of these channels? Because even if it's convenient, if it's not consistent, you're going to have a problem. And then, is it providing long-term value? Will they come back? Are they engaging with your content or brand in a way that they're going to want to tell somebody else or come back? Or is it, really not that, if it's not relevant, obviously it's not contain, long-term value. So these are the things that when you're outputting this content, you want to make sure you're hitting on. So you saw this slide yesterday, and this is just kind of painting the picture of the complexity and things that are happening in the marketplace right now, and how their resources have remained flat over most organizations. So the ability to get content in all of these customer touch points in a consistent, relevant, long-term value sort of a way is just becoming harder and harder. And so, it's creating these disjointed experiences and these random acts of content getting put out there by different teams again with different messages, or homeless content that you found it in one place but it's not logical and you can't find it again. You've got rogue marketing happening, and that's creating these one-off experiences. So I'm going to play this video by Robert Rose, and then just kind of addressing this, and then what we'll do is I'm going to hand out some worksheets at that time, and then we're going to dive into a little bit of a workshop on how to solve for this. So here we go.
I think some of the biggest challenges that marketing faces today starts with this, where we sit with the siloed organization, right? It used to be that marketing was siloed really only from sales and IT and legal and the rest of the business, but now marketing has become such a stratified strategy that in many cases marketing is siloed even from itself. We have social CRM and brand and PR and SEO and digital marketing and all of these teams that are creating experiences for customers at ever thinning slices of that customer journey without really joining that customer journey. It's really, the idea has to be, how can we look from a customer-centric point of view to cumulatively collect all of the information that we need about a customer, and then ultimately join those journey steps together so that it's one cohesive journey, not just waypoints that, some of them are great and some of them aren't. So that means we can't look at marketing as just isolating and optimizing one single layer or one single department or one single idea. We have to join those into a much more integrated approach. This is where the digital transformation truly should sit, is how do we join marketing together in a much more cohesive team. I think everything else around that becomes just a tactical challenge of technology and quite frankly channel management.
So you're not alone, basically, you should take away from that. So now I'm going to talk about how an optimized content lifecycle enables superior brand experiences. So the idea of, before you can create all these amazing experiences, you have to do the behind the scenes work. And we talk a lot about kind of slowing down, getting everything in order. That will allow you to speed up in the long run. If you try to just do everything at Mach speed coming out of the gates and don't get the basics, workflow structures, taxonomy, metadata, all of that stuff put in place from the beginning, it's going to make bigger problems. It's not going to solve your problems. So I liken this to the concept of the life cycle of a butterfly, where everybody wants the butterfly. They want this big, beautiful, piece of content or campaign out in market, but there are all these steps in this life cycle that have to happen for the butterfly to emerge. So when we look at that from a content life cycle vision or view, we look at this as the ideation, the planning and budgeting, the creative aspect of things, managing all of that, all the way from your resources, your assets, your people, your workflow process, to the distribution of that, and then the analysis, so that you can bring that insight back in and make informed decisions going forward. And then within all of these, there's a whole nother layer of chaos happening, and it depends on how well structured your team is, right? So you might have 10 different workflows happening in 7 different organizations, or you might be really well aligned. And so those are some things you're going to want to assess too as you start to look across the entire organization to create, a more fluid brand experience for external facing audiences. And then on top of it, as I mentioned earlier, put the customer in the center. Look at this from the customer's perspective. What are they looking for, so that when you're planning and coming up with this creative, you're not doing it in a vacuum. So from there, we're going to start assessing our gaps. So you all have these worksheets, and I'll put these questions up. I will read them because I think they're kind of hard to probably read from the back. But the idea is you're going to honestly assess and answer the questions on the worksheet. They go in order. And then at the end, you'll have a pretty good idea of where you're weaker and where you're stronger. And I have a maturity model that will kind of help you assess next steps, etc. So the first one, how does your team start the creative process? A, ideas are fragmented by individuals and hard to keep track of iterations. B, we brainstorm and draw ideas on whiteboards, take pictures, and email them to each other. Or something like that, right? Figure out which one you're closest to. C, there's a brainstorming session, and then ideas are captured and attached to projects. D, we brainstorm, attach ideas to projects, and then identify KPIs. E, we brainstorm on shared idea boards and tie projects to enterprise goals. When marked for execution, there's a global visibility into process and results measurement. So take a minute, think about it. I'm going to keep going unless somebody raises their hand and says wait. So, okay, planning and budgeting. What planning processes are in place to align marketing initiatives with the strategic goals of your business? A, we currently have no formal or structured planning process. B, we email different versions of spreadsheets around but have no formal planning process. C, we have a planning roadmap to align all marketing initiatives to business objectives. D, we have a formal planning process that has activities, integration points tied to our enterprise goals, and has executive support. E, we have structured but adaptable processes that ensure alignment between strategy and tactical rollout from conception through execution. Okay, next. How do you track your budget? A, there's no centralized or documented way to track planned versus actual spend. I liked the session before when Lorna was talking about the miscellaneous budget. That kind of cracked me up. B, fragmented processes are in place to track planned expenses versus actual spend. C, we have a centralized and measurable method of tracking activities, including budget from planning through execution. D, our organization has near real-time reporting that can validate and compare what is budgeted against actual spend. Or E, we have real-time data regarding spend from all dimensions, planning, vendors, campaigns, and more. And in some of these, you might be in the middle or have a couple of components, so just kind of pick what you think best represents your organization. Next, create. Have you implemented business process support for content lifecycle work? So think about workflows, think about project request forms, things like that. A, nothing is in place. B, we have email or other external systems to plan, request, and approve content. C, the system in where we store content allows us to trigger some necessary review and approval actions. D, we have a fully integrated content and workflow system. E, we have an integrated content and workflow systems that they're integrated into your other systems of engagement, such as your CMS, your e-commerce, your email, things like that. Next, how easy is it for your creative teams to be creative? A, it's difficult for them to find what they're looking for and figure out what they're supposed to be doing. B, we have a process, but no one seems to follow it. Everyone always wants a favor, and they waste a lot of time trying to find things. C, we have a documented process that's followed by teams, but teams often waste time trying to locate assets and figure out what edits need to be made. So think about I emailed that over to you at 2 o'clock yesterday, and you probably got 5 other emails on a PDF from other people with their edits, trying to find things like that. You have a process, but it's still hard for the creative people to put it all together. D, we have an automated workflow, review, and approval process. We also have a separate shared library for assets. And E, we have a seamless connection between our automated workflow and DAM, which is connected to the tools our creatives already use, like the Adobe Creative Suite, and we use an AI tool to classify content. So your DAM is able to help automate some of the classification. All right. What best describes your review and approval process? A, we make it, change it, and post it. B, we email drafts back and forth, which may result in changes being missed. C, we use software such as Basecamp and wait for days till someone will respond. D, we use software to collaborate and send automated emails to reviewers to remind them to approve. E, reviews are automated directly to reviewers and legal teams as necessary. All right. Where do you store digital assets today? A, anywhere. We don't have a policy, and it's up to the person to decide. And you would be surprised how many times people pick A. It's crazy. B, assets are stored in multiple systems throughout the organization. C, we have one system for all customer-facing assets, but it's not used consistently or well-governed. D, we have one system where all assets are stored and marketing mostly uses it. E, we have one system where all assets are stored and all departments consistently use it. Okay. Next, are you able to securely store, manage, and find your assets? A, not really. Assets are stored all over the place and not documented. B, content is kept in shared folders, but rights data is kept on separate spreadsheets. C, we have one system for all assets, but it's not used consistently or well-governed, and it's hard to find things. D, we use a DAM and have a taxonomy structure and metadata attached to assets. Most departments use it. Or E, our DAM is the hub of our operation. Taxonomy and metadata processes are always followed. Assets are atomic and secured across a secure and easy to find access and measure. If anybody picked that, I want to know. We'll have you do a success story next year. So gap assessment on distribute. We're almost done. What processes are in place to support the customization and localization of assets? A, the processes for customizing our localizing assets is manual. We depend on channel partners for localization and sales to create customized, tailored content. So the takeaway, it's manual. Everyone is right. B, there's no centralized ability to create custom, tailored content. C, central marketing has created a centralized online library of customizable templates that can be personalized and localized. D, we have a fully adopted and standardized asset customization and localized process. E, localization process is agile and flexible to adjust based on localized market needs. Last one here, measure. Are you able to test, measure, and adapt your content and processes based on insights? What about content performance? A, no, we just keep creating more content. We're measured by output. B, there's no standardized process, but we use Excel and Salesforce to understand performance. C, we can measure downloads and other basic content-related costs and speed to market, but we don't really do anything with that information. D, process execution can be swiftly adjusted based on real-time organizational performance measurement, but customer impact is not measured. And E, we can measure content's impact on customer behavior, performance is analyzed and measured, and because our execution is agile, it can be adjusted with limited organizational disruption. So, you should have all of your questions filled out. Is there anything I need to go back to before I keep going? Okay. First, I just want to show you, in the master class, there was a very condensed version of this, and we had a poll on a couple things. I thought you might find this interesting, of just how much money marketing departments are wasting on non-value added tasks. Today, this was just at this conference. So just thought you might want to see these results, because I don't want you to feel bad leaving here. You're not alone. And so then this is the maturity model that I've put together here. So it's going to map with your sheet there. So if you want to kind of score up where you've got the most, is it A's, B's, C's? Because you'll notice, like, A is level 1, B is level 2, C is level 3, D is level 4, and E is level 5 for everything. I made it really simple. So, kind of take a look at where you think you're falling and maybe what areas on your worksheet that you are in emerging or developing versus which areas maybe you're in practicing or optimizing, right? That should give you some kind of insights into where you're falling short and need to work harder. And I'm not going to read every single word on this, but this will be distributed. But what I want you to be aware of is the operational risk in this emerging section is also very high. There's no controls in place. And as you move towards this leading, your operational risk becomes very low, and you have adaptable controls in place. So again, when you're trying to talk to senior leadership, if this is a slide you want, I'm happy to give it out, because I think those are the kinds of things that resonate of why are we trying to fix this? Why do we need to invest in this? And then I'll go through this last part quickly, and again, because I know we're at time, this will be available. But I feel like everyone in the conferences I've been to in the last 6 months or so is like, what's the magic formula? How do I fix this? it gets very frustrating. I think people are really starting to become frustrating with transformations right now. I think that word is starting to like grind on people. And I want to remind you that this is a metamorphosis. And the dictionary description of that is a process of transformation from immature to an adult form in 2 or more distinct phases. And the part that really made me laugh is this by natural or supernatural means. Like, that, I think that kind of sums up how people are feeling. Also from the workshop here, over 58% of the attendees at this conference, and I would say that you're leading the pack compared to most organizations out there, are at this practicing level. So again, I don't want you to leave with doom and gloom. And I do want to just show you, I do have steps here for what you need to do to get to these next level in each category. So I have this built out for each one of those stages of the content lifecycle. So again, this deck will be available to you all, and I will give you my contact information if you want it. But this is for you to use and take back to your organizations and spend some time kind of thinking about what you need to do next. So I see there's some pictures. I'll pause at each one of these and you can grab a picture. And then I'm happy to, again, talk to anybody after this as well. You got it. So, all right, so we're at time and the end of the content. So again, thank you for attending. Hopefully you found this at least somewhat helpful to start thinking about what you need to be working on. Or maybe you already knew a lot of that, and this might give you some tools that you can take back to your teams to help kind of show where you stand as an organization and what your next steps need to be. So again, thank you.